Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Market Wrap. Now I am back in Philly, back in the studios. The Giants are back to losing, so everything's right with the world. Unfortunately, COVID's starting to pick up in Connecticut and in Philly a little bit, so we're starting to thin down the staff a little bit here, all trying to stay safe. Hopefully I don't get back to being stuck in my kitchen. I love coming down here. Hopefully we can keep it going. So we had three fantastic watches this week, and the first one we're going to talk about is an Audemars. And it's the AP 26470BA. So it's the yellow gold offshore chronograph on a bracelet, lovingly referred to as the brick or the pounder, and literally because it weighs a pound. It is huge, it is gold, it has a spectacular blue dial. It is just one of the coolest in-your-face gold watches you will ever see. You don't see a lot of them because, again, it's a lot of watch to wear, but it's just an amazing piece. Love having it in the collection. The second piece is about the polar opposite. It's a Patek Philippe 5320G Perpetual calendar. And this particular one is one of their latest Perpetuals. It's got this beautiful vintage dial that's just amazing. It was impossible to get for about 2 years after they released it. We do get them periodically now. It is still, to me, one of the classic Pateks, one of the prettiest dials, just a great overall piece. And the last piece we're going to talk about today is a Vacheron, another gold piece. Now this one is the 49150, the Overseas yellow gold on a bracelet. Again, you don't see a lot of these out there. This one actually wears super well. It's great balance. It's got a beautiful silver dial. I just love that watch. It's the classic previous generation Overseas. It's a great value in today's market. So I spend a lot of time on Market Wrap talking about trading, talking about pricing. But today we're going to spend some time talking about what we really love. So trading, buying and selling certainly pays the bills here at WatchBox. And yes, they pay me to do this. But I do this because I love watches. There's no better place in the world to be than WatchBox if you love watches, because we get to see some of the greatest things come in and go out. And there's just so much passion here about watches. As most of you know by now, I was raised by a watchmaker and who had a huge passion for what he did. Not just repairing watches, but restoring and appreciating the craft and art of watchmaking. My dad talked about watches, chronographs specifically were his things, how they were made, and loved the ability to understand how they were built and the engineering behind it and what that watchmaker thought of when he was building that watch. And understanding what was behind the watch allowed you to fix it, to restore it, to kind of put it back in the condition the original maker had intended. Now, I was very lucky last year to be able to go into Dubai. Today I got to see a watch that came across my desk, which is probably the most special grail watch in my humble opinion, and that's the Philippe Dufour Simplicity. It is the classic Philippe Dufour three-hand model. He's made just about 200 of these ever, so it's not something you get to see a lot of. I was blessed at Dubai Watch Week. We had a pop-up booth there last year. I went for a break, went to the bathroom, came back and looked at the booth, and sitting in a chair in my booth was Philippe Dufour. So after I got up the nerve, I went over and chatted with him and literally got to spend 45 minutes just talking with the man who's probably considered the greatest living watchmaker today. And understanding what he does and listening to him literally preach watchmaking. He is all about quality, he's all about finish, he's all about doing the simplest things to the highest level possible. And to me, it's elevating watchmaking to an art. He's not coming up with crazy materials, he's not doing things that nobody ever did. He's just doing it with such attention to detail that it's arguably better than anyone ever did. And he has such passion about that belief and taking watchmaking to an art that it's just infectious. And I got to take this watch today that we had gone out and sourced for a client of ours. It's a great opportunity. We will be gone in a couple of days, and the new owner will proudly wear this. He'll be one of only a couple of hundred in the world who may ever have that opportunity. But it's just an amazing watch, really makes you appreciate what you do and love what we do here at WatchBox. The other market I wanted to talk about today is an upcoming auction at Phillips. And it is a retrospective, but a modern retrospective. So basically, it's a selection of watches from 2000 to 2020. And it's one of the coolest collections of modern watches you may ever see. A number of incredible Pateks, some awesome Journes, modern classics, APs. But one of my favorite all-time longas is in this piece, and it's the Datograph Yellow Jacket. Now, for those of you who are Yellow Jacket fans, this is a Datograph, all yellow gold, black dial. They made this piece right around 2009. I remember it because I got to sell one of the original pieces. It was during the financial crisis. Longa was doing whatever they could to generate market interest, and they produced a very small batch of yellow gold Datagraphs with a black dial. You never see them come up. You never see them hit auction. It's, to me, one of the best watches ever made. And for anybody who loves watches, you should really check out this auction because it's just a great perspective on modern watchmaking and just some amazing pieces. So kudos to Phillips. They did a great job putting it together. Again, we're super passionate about watches, so we get excited even when it's somebody else's work. But there's some amazing pieces, so be sure to check it out. So the last thing we're going to do today is what we are buying. Now, one of my favorite Omegas out there is the Speedmaster, but specifically, they made some great racing dials. These are not crazy expensive piece, but you'll get a great Speedmaster chrono with a very funky, cool dial for a few $1,000s. They're an amazing piece. We are always looking to source those. The second piece that we're looking to do is a Patek Philippe Classic Perpetual. Now, we talked about the 5320, but the ultimate classic Patek is the 3940. We're always looking for those. We're seeing fewer and fewer lately because I think people are finally understanding that this is truly an iconic watch. It's an amazing piece. There are lots of different variations. Those are always pieces we're looking to acquire. And the last piece we're always looking for is, and again, now an Audemars again, the 15202. So the ultra thin Royal Oak. It's exactly the opposite of the Ponder we talked about earlier, just the classic ultra thin three-hand, absolutely beautiful watch. Love seeing those in the collection. So I hope you enjoyed this week's Market Wrap. Look forward to seeing you next week.